How to use the Strut Pro cutlass bearing replacement tools. Move the propeller. Closely inspect the strut for any set screws used for retaining the strut bearing. Sometimes strut screws are painted over with anti-filling paint, so it's important to remove any set screws before cleaning debris and corrosion off old bearing and struts. To select the proper horseshoes, you will need two measurements: the outside diameter of the strut bearing and the diameter of the propeller shaft. For this example, we're replacing a bearing with an outside diameter of 3 inches installed on a drive shaft with a 2-inch diameter. The inside measurement for the forward horseshoe should be slightly more than the drive shaft diameter. In this case, it's 2 inches. The measurement of the aft horseshoe must be slightly larger than the outside diameter of the bearing because the bearing must pass through it during removal. The proper collets that closely match the outside diameter of the bearing. Do not exceed the outside diameter of the bearing or you could jam the collets into the strut. Collets are designed to stack to fit a wide range of bearing diameters. Special shim materials are provided for 3/4 inch and 7/8 inch shaft sizes, as well as metric or any off sizes. Position the collets onto the propeller shaft forward of the strut and secure the collets using the hook and loop straps provided. Unstrap approximately 1 inch from each end of the collet and pull snug. Rotate the collet so the seams are on the top and bottom. This will maximize the surface area of the collets that connects to the forward horseshoe. Slide the collet back to make contact with the bearing. Visually inspect it to make sure the collet closely matches but does not exceed the outside diameter of the bearing. Construct the puller assembly. Lay the forward and aft yokes on a clean surface. Insert a flat steel washer, then the bronze thrust bearing, then another flat washer over each threaded rod. Insert the threaded rods through the yoke, starting with the aft yoke, and then through the forward yoke. Attach the machine nuts to the threaded rods. Insert into the forward yoke, positioning the nuts into the locking tabs. Use the cotter pins to attach the horseshoe, matching the outside diameter of the bearing to the aft yoke. Attach the forward horseshoe at this time. Lift the aft yoke assembly onto the aft inner shaft and position under the strut. Swing the assembly up and forward to position the forward yoke onto the drive shaft, forward of the collets previously installed on the shaft. The forward horseshoes that closely match the propeller shaft diameter. Cotter pins through the horseshoe and into the yoke to hold the horseshoe in place. Installed and you are ready to remove the bearing. It's very important to apply equal pressure to both threaded rods by hand turning the welded nuts clockwise. This will compress the puller assembly. Tap the horseshoe up and out of the way of the old bearing. If you have a new bearing, slide it onto the propeller shaft up to the aft end of the strut. Rest the aft horseshoe in the new bearing to automatically align itself and prevent the old bearing from making contact with the aft horseshoe during removal. This is very important. There must be clearance for the cutlass bearing to slide out through the aft horseshoe. If the puller assembly gets tight without the bearing moving, stop and examine the cause. You are absolutely positive there are no set screws securing the bearing into the strut. Caution, turn each nut no more than 5 cranks. Watch closely to ensure alignment remains consistent between the forward and aft yokes. As you continue turning the nuts, the tool will force the cause into the forward end of the strut, forcing the worn bearing out of the aft. If the bearing is free, it can easily slide back and off the propeller shaft. Threaded rods and remove the collets, which are now inside the strut. This may require tapping to loosen them from the strut. However, holes are provided in the collets for that purpose. Use caution not to damage the propeller or shaft. Got questions? Visit us at strutpro.com for written manuals and tips.